From a collection of top secret, highly secure locations throughout South Texas, this is the Spurs Insider, the podcast outrageously snubbed for all-star consideration with Express News sports editor Nick Talbot and beat writer Jeff McDonald. I am Mike Finger. We are without Tom Ringo Starr Orsborn this week, who's getting a well-deserved day of rest. And guys, it seems like this might be the last chance for anybody to get a day of rest around the Spurs for the next several months. We're about to hit a part of the schedule in the second half where there's a game every other day, and lots of times there's back-to-backs. How are the local Cagers poised to handle what's ahead of them, Jeff McDonald?
Well, first of all, I'm wondering if I'm poised to handle what's ahead of me, because I guess I'm going to have to carry this podcast today since Ringo's on his tropical vacation.
This podcast will be however many percent more polarizing.
Now 30% more polarizing.
Yes, because we don't have Ringo's even keel to kind of temper your outrageousness.
Now, to your question about the local Cagers. How are they poised to handle this 40 games and 68 days stretch to close the season? I think the number one thing would be to have everyone healthy. They're going to need everybody, available body, and they haven't had that all year. Have every available body. They're going to have to use all their depth to get through all this. We come on here a lot of times and have
all their depth. Could they withstand an injury to Keita Bates-Diop?
Well, sure. What I'm saying is they're going to need all those players at some point, because we've come on here before and had discussions about how do they get Lonnie Walker more time, or how do they get this guy more time, or that guy more time. I think everyone's going to get time at some point during the second half of the season, because there's just so many back-to-backs. There's going to be guys rested, I think. There's definitely going to be guys, with nagging injuries here or there that are going to need to sit. So I think everyone, as we've seen in the last stretch here before the start of the All-Star break, they're going to need a Keita Bates-Diop game, or a game where Luka Šamanić has 12 points or something, or gives them good minutes. Or they're going to have to, in order to weather this whole stretch and still make the playoffs, they're going to need everybody to contribute at some point along the way. And so that's the broad answer to your question there.
Nick, do you feel like Jeff and Ringo are rested enough for this? Or do you have faith that they'll be able to withstand all this?
I hope they're both be able to withstand all this. We'll see. With the 11 back-to-backs, it's going to be tough for Mr. McDonald to drink enough Polar Pops to keep himself energized.
I know I'm going to end up with diabetes.
Hopefully we'll find a way to do that. I think the main thing for the local Cagers, for the Spurs with those 11 back-to-backs is how much we haven't talked to all the guys that have gotten COVID yet, to see how serious their situation was, how it's kind of affecting their breathing and their conditioning. And I know Jason Tatum from the Celtics, when he got it, he took a long time. Even a month later, he said he was still feeling the effects of it. How's that going to play in to this 40 and 68 with these guys if they're winded? Keldon Johnson said he was a little winded. They monitored his minutes a little bit those first couple games. He's the most athletic and probably the most energetic on the team. How is everyone else going to react to the congestion, that problems with the breathing and everything? How serious was that? And I'm really interested to see, especially in this first stretch, how their conditioning is going to hold up and how their minutes are going to hold up.
Keldon Johnson did not recommend the COVID experience.
Yeah, he said it pretty much sucked. Which,
yeah.
To that point, we've just seen sort of a small sample of Keldon Johnson coming back from the COVID virus, and of that last batch of Spurs players, he's the only one that's come back to play an NBA game. He played in 2 games, limited minutes in both. Told us he feels 100%, but I don't know. I'm not calling him a liar, but I don't know if I buy it just from the eye test. Again, small sample size, but he sure didn't quite seem like he was back up and running at 100% full tilt. Wild Mustang Keldon Johnson in those 2 games, and whether that was just the layoff affecting him or lingering effects of the virus, I don't know. But I think the point is valid that it's going to take a while for all these guys to come back and look 100%, look like they looked before the the outbreak.
It does seem like ages ago, the games that were played in the week before the All-Star break, there was kind of something for everyone. If you're an optimist or a pessimist, they played pretty well in the first game against Brooklyn when they were huge underdogs and hung in there and gave those guys a game. And then on the second half of the back-to-back, I was informed by people across the league that the Knicks had changed. The Knicks still looked pretty overmatched against your Spurs. The Spurs had one of their best games of the year in the second half of a back-to-back. And blowing out the Knicks. And then that last one before the break, you're getting the second game of Keldon Johnson back from COVID. Oklahoma City, I believe, was on the second night of a back-to-back. They had just been blowed out in Dallas the night before. And the Thunder had the Spurs' attention because the Spurs had just lost up in Oklahoma City the week before. And causing DeJounte Murray to kick the ball into the stands. And so you figure out this is an automatic route for the Spurs against the Thunder, and didn't turn out that way. So, I mean, and I think, Jeff, you pointed it out. You don't say this often about this team this year, but that was a bad loss.
It was, and it was on the way to it being that route for a while. I mean, early in the third quarter, they're up 14 and seem, I know that 14 points isn't a insurmountable deficit in the NBA, but just everything seemed to be trending towards that route you were talking about, and the wheels just came flying off and probably hit some of those hometown heroes in the stands there that they let in the AT&T Center stands for that game. I talking to Pop afterwards, and there's probably some validity to this. He just said the whole stretch of having to play shorthanded 5 games in a row, and I think it was 3 and 4 nights, caught up to him, and he attributed that a lot of those. It was turnovers. I mean, it was clearly turnovers is what did them in that second game against OKC. He attributed a lot of that to maybe just some mental fatigue building up over the course of those 5 games. If you had told me going into those 5 games they would finish that stretch going to the All-Star break with basically without all those COVID players playing. If you told me they'd have finished 2 and 3, I think I'd have said they did a good job.
Yeah.
And I guess you still have to say that it's 2 of the 3 losses were to the Thunder, which is bizarre.
Yeah. Checking in with the stat geeks, which we like to do every now and then on the Spurs Insider. I'd been saying all year that the projection systems had the Spurs as over 50% to make the playoffs. That last loss to Thunder dropped them below. Basketball Reference down to 44.8% heading into the second half of the season. 44.8% to make the playoffs. 538 Raptor, 43%. Watch out for the Memphis Grizzlies, who had played steady basketball for most of the year without their. I think have they got anything from Jaren Jackson? I don't think so.
No.
Ja Morant's been out. Their schedule kind of eases up a little bit. So I mean,
it does, but they're the other team that has 40 games in 68 days to finish it.
I mean, everybody has lots of games in the second half. The Spurs have the
40
most.
is the most, though.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll see.
We'll see. Now we've decided the stat geeks are when they're laying out
based on the top 8.
So so I think the chances are still good that your local Cagers are looking good to at least finish in that top 10,
right?
And have a chance to fight their way into a 7-8. But
every time we bring this up, we kind of take for granted that our listeners, who are some of the smartest listeners in the podcast, fear. I mean,
one of them is. The other one I'm not sure about.
Yeah, one of them is. I feel almost embarrassed having to spell this out, but just for people who aren't all over the up-to-date NBA playoff format changes, to review the way the NBA playoffs are going to be moving forward, and it's even different from how it was last year. From now on, the top 10 teams in each conference will get an extra game, and the 9th place team will play the 10th place team. Winner advances, loser goes home. That's a 1-game thing. The 7th place team will play the 8th place team. The winner gets the 7th seed. And then the loser of that 7-8 game will play the winner of that 9-10 game for the 8th seed. So there's a definite advantage to finishing 8th as a result of 9th, because then you just have to win one of 2 games. There's a definite advantage to finishing 6th instead of 7th, because 6th you're in, 7th you got to go through that extra stuff. So that's some kind of house cleaning there to make sure people know what we're talking about. But yeah, the various steps there are finishing 10th to get you something, finishing 8th to get you a little extra, finishing 6th get you a little more. But right now, to get to the old school playoff series parts of it, top 8, Spurs are slightly less than 50% to make that top 8 this year, and that seems fair.
Yeah, that seems pretty fair.
Seems fair.
They got a 5-game lead on the Pelicans, though.
Yeah. Pelicans are not. Pelicans kind of projected to be. Every time you watch them, you just your jaw drops at all the talent they have and how fun they can be to watch. Zion is a force, but they're still there in 11th place. They're angling for that.
This isn't the Pelicans insider, but they can't guard anybody. That's their problem.
Yeah.
Like every so often, your Kirk Goldsberry types will put out that grid of like offensive rating and defensive rating, and the ones in this grid are good at both, and the ones in this grid are bad at both, and the Pelicans are always way off on their own. There's like this amazing offensive team that just is defensively atrocious, like way down the axis there.
Yep. And the other teams that the Spurs are dueling, or I guess one of them. Memphis kind of built in that Spurs mode. Is Taylor Jenkins, former Spurs, Austin Spurs guy, along with Quinn Snyder. Memphis is a defensive team. They're always in it because they can guard, and I guess that's a larger picture NBA topic to talk about. But do we still care about All-Star and why Mike Conley and Devin Booker and name your Western Conference All-Star got in over DeMar DeRozan? Or are we kind of past that? We
can talk about that. I don't know if DeMar's passed it.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think DeMar's passed it, and I think that weighs more for the Spurs for the second half of the season than if he had made it, because DeMar plays angry pretty well.
Yeah. I think that the Booker thing, he was the first injury replacement. Mm-hmm. And that was a little more defensible, even though I think I take DeMar's full stat line, full first half of the season.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue against Booker.
I'm not going to get upset about it. It was a second player from Phoenix who's had a really good first half of the season. That's fine. When you're taking Mike Conley, who I should say up front, as everybody else who's covered the league in the past 10 years, you like Mike Conley as a guy. He's one of the better interviews. He seems like just a good guy to have on your team. And for a long time, he was the best active player in the league who'd never made an all-star team. And he probably has been snubbed several times in the past. Just couldn't get in at a loaded position. Over the course of his career, you got to say Mike Conley deserves to play in an all-star game at some point. But if you're just in, like take his first half versus DeMar DeRozan's first half, I don't think it's particularly close as to who played better, who deserved it more. I think it's clearly DeMar.
I don't think so either. I think it was clearly DeMar. I would have taken DeMar over Booker. Just if you look at the numbers this year, even Booker hasn't been as good as he was, the last couple seasons. Just looking at things, like shooting percentage and PER and all those fancy real plus minus numbers. DeMar actually wins those as long as you don't look at the defensive real plus minus. And then Michael Conley, it's not real close. The only excuse I can see there is the NBA was desperate to get another 3-point guy in that contest when Booker dropped out, and DeMar's not going to be that guy in the 3-point contest, but that seems pretty flimsy.
You also give the Jazz a third All-Star. Basically, it was the day after the two Jazz All-Stars were the last two guys picked. So and the same week that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell just went off on officiating for screwing over small market teams. And by the way, I wrote about that this weekend. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on
You write words? I thought you were just a podcast
every now
host.
and then. Like I'm mainly a podcaster, but every now and then I like to break out the old typewriter and
when did that start?
And fax over some carbon copy things for them to put in the newspaper. Curious what y'all think about Rudy Gobert's contention that small market teams are at a clear disadvantage when it comes to getting respect from officials, when it comes to working their way up into the league powers. And I believe he said that that's something that you have to overcome being in a small market, that you don't just have to be better, you have to be elite when you're in a small market. What do you guys think about that?
If he's talking just in regards to officiating, that's kind of ridiculous. Like Zach Zarba is not calling a foul because it's Utah as opposed to the Knicks. Like that's ridiculous. I mean, I think there's always been something to the star calls. I mean, LeBron's just going to get more calls than Royce O'Neal or someone like that. But as far as the team itself goes, I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think just on point there. I think the weight with the small markets is they usually don't have the LeBron James to get those calls. They don't have the Michael Jordans. They don't have the Kobe Bryants. Those are guys that get away with the calls in the league. It's not Donovan Mitchell. It's not Rudy Gobert. And I think that weighs in part of it. And if you go into the All-Star stuff, it's completely valid. I mean, you can look at the Spurs and see it's completely valid because DeMar didn't get in. And then we had the...
Mike Conley got in.
That's
from basically the same size market. The Salt Lake and San Antonio were 30 and 31 in your Nielsen.
The Jazz are like I said, the Jazz are 27-9, and that's the only.
I mean, okay. So the argument for Mike, going back to that, the argument for Mike Conley is he has the best plus minus or whatever the heck it was in the entire league. So he's on the best team. It's a real analytic argument.
You know, also a great plus minus Jakob Poeltl.
I was going to say, coupled with the feel good story of getting Mike Conley in a game. Jakob Poeltl, what I heard is they invited him. They were going to invite him to the All-Star game, but they just didn't want it to be unfair.
I see.
Like only one team gets a Jakob Poeltl, and that team is just closely going to win that game, and it's not even close. It's not going to be worth watching.
Would you rather have seen Jakob Poeltl in the skills contest or the slam dunk contest?
I would want to see Jakob Poeltl in a free throw contest. What if the league had offered DeMar this deal? You get to be in the All-Star game, but you have to participate in the 3-point contest for us.
I don't know. I think he might have passed.
Hasn't been a heck of a 3-point contest, though. A lot of made threes with the toe on the line.
I think he might have done what he often does in clutch situations, and he would have passed. And that would have been the right move. The passing is often the right move. What was I going to say? I was about to go somewhere. And
yours is good as podcasting if you aren't colonizing.
I got completely thrown off. Oh, the going back to the small market thing. And I bring this up a lot. Like people are sick of me saying it, but it just completely refutes the whole
truth.
NBA is fixed. Small market teams have no chance thing. For people who've said for decades that the NBA decides who wins lotteries and who wins championships and what have you, if the NBA is fixing this stuff and still the San Antonio Spurs won 5 titles in 15 years and got Tim Duncan, one of the 2 most important lotteries, him and LeBron James, of basically a 2-decade period. If they fix things and allow that to happen, then they're terrible at fixing things.
They suck at cheating.
They're bad at cheating. If they want to fix things, like Tim Duncan should have been a Knick or a Celtic or something, the NBA would have been made way more money that way.
Yeah, the Celtics had the best odds that year too, right?
They did. They did. And it's just kind of silly. I mean, I think that clearly there are moments, as Nick mentioned earlier, where stars get calls, but I think that's natural. And the idea that the league office is conspiring to decide who's playing in these series, where we've had this millennium, we've had a Spurs Detroit finals, Spurs Cleveland finals, Oklahoma City made a finals. It just doesn't pass the smell test.
I have a crazy theory. Go ahead.
So you're anti-frozen envelope?
Yeah, I mean the Knicks. The Knicks got Patrick Ewing. That was a big thing. It was good, probably good for the league that they got him. But I mean, it's the Knicks have proven over the years that they haven't got a whole lot of stuff fixed their way, and still aren't, based on how they played at the AT&T Center last week.
I've got a conspiracy theory for Rudy Gobert. Sometimes the refs are just incompetent, and that's it.
That's true.
Like sometimes they just suck. We've all played sports. Every so often, the refs have a bad night.
And also, someone, I can't remember who pointed this out this weekend, and I know you guys are so busy, you would not dream of watching any college basketball, but I want to give credit where credit's due, but I can't remember who said this. But the best antidote for NBA players complaining about officiating is for them to spend one day watching college basketball officiating. Because comparatively, like the NBA, like the Zach Zarba, he's eons ahead of what's going on at the college game, where all you have to do is fall over and get a charge call.
Has Zach Zarba become the go-to for just name your NBA official now?
It's true. I had to correct myself there because I was going through my mental.
I almost said Pavetta, and he's been gone forever.
Dick Pavetta, Joey Crawford, Steve Javie. On down the line, like none of these guys, the kids listening to the podcast don't remember these people anymore, because our podcast skews quite young, I've been told, and that's good for our demographics. Like whenever we
it's like stay-at-home moms playing it for their newborns to go to sleep.
I'm not sure about that, but I know that whenever we get our sponsorship, which I'm told is coming pretty soon. It'll probably be for like a TikTok or I don't know, something really young.
Now you're just saying words.
I don't know. I don't know. But by the way, since we don't have a sponsorship, the best thing to do is promote the place where we actually do generate some form of revenue, and that is at expressnews.com. And it's a really good deal for the listeners to subscribe to expressnews.com. I mean, for the price of like a TikTok, you can get in, I don't know how much a TikTok costs, or an NBA Top Shot. I'm not sure. But go to expressnews.com. You don't only get Spurs coverage, you get coverage of our entire city, our entire state, award-winning coverage. Subscribe to the Spurs Nation newsletter, do all that good stuff. We'd really appreciate it. And also go to your podcast app and rate this podcast, and comment or leave a review. We really enjoy those reviews. We've been called the Tim Duncan of podcasts, and even better, we've been called the Jakob Poeltl of podcasts. So again, please do that if you have a minute.
Just so we're on the same page, a TikTok is one of those little tiny mints, right? That comes in a little plastic.
Yes.
Container.
But the kids the kids like them now. The kids are all about.
So it's retro. I get it.
I'm asking Jeff this legitimately because I'm curious.
Oh no.
I don't want you to do the default smartass answer here. I'm honestly curious. Do you know what NBA Top Shot is?
I have no idea.
You really don't, do you?
I have no idea.
And you've heard the term?
I suppose I've heard the term.
Okay. What NBA Top Shot is, and I'm being serious. People are going to, our older listeners, and we do have a couple of older listeners, you're going to think I'm making this up. And I don't totally understand it, but this is my honest effort to explain what NBA Top Shot is. Like every play, every highlight during a game, it could be Jakob Poeltl missing a free throw. It could be DeMar DeRozan passing to Patty Mills for a three-pointer. All those little clips are now digital currency, basically, like a Bitcoin. And I know no one here knows what a Bitcoin is either. But they are the NBA Top Shot makes only like 10 versions of that Jakob Poeltl missed free throw, and then people bid on them, and you own that clip for life. It could be, I mean, more to the point, like a spectacular LeBron James slam dunk, and there's only so many of those. And those are somehow, don't ask me to explain the minutia of it, but people are trading for life that clip of Jakob Poeltl missing a free throw, and you own that forever. And they're selling these things for like thousands of dollars. And you buy them, I guess, like you can buy a pack of them, like we used to buy.
Who is selling these things?
You buy them like a baseball card. You remember you'd go to the store and buy like a cellophane pack of baseball cards. There'd be
now now you're speaking my language. This I remember.
Yeah. So there's a virtual version of that where you buy a pack of Top Shots, and one of them might be like in the old days, 80, 87 Tops. You'd get another one of those Mike Witts or whatever. Another Mike Witt. Well, you could get another, Jakob Poeltl missed free throw, or you could get lucky and get like the great Jakob Poeltl dunk or block shot or a LeBron James game-winning three-pointer, and then you go and you sell those to people. What do y'all think of that?
I think Jeff's going to go broke buying all the Jakob Poeltl highlights now.
Yeah,
I'll be outbidding myself on Jakob Poeltl.
Anyway, that is NBA Top Shot, as I understand it.
That was a perfect explanation.
We might need
it's just
it.
Wild. That's the way it is, though. That I grew up with baseball cards and whatnot, but during my age, all the cards now are worthless. They aren't selling for like, right. I guess the Kobe rookie card sold for $1.8 million the other day, which is crazy. But selling digital clips, it seems to me like you're selling a gift that's going to be on Twitter 5 seconds later. But right. I wouldn't pay money for that. But
it's what I've learned. I shouldn't say learned. What I'm starting to gather is like stuff is just worth what people believe it's worth, whether that's Bitcoin or I don't know, stocks. What's the GameStop stuff?
GameStop. Okay, so
it's just like we're going down a completely weird tangent here, but the world is crazy.
You've explained this to me now, and here's my reaction.
Okay.
What?
Yes.
I'll give it to you again. What?
We're going to start as a spinoff to this. We're going to start an NBA Top Shot podcast. It's going to come out on Fridays, and it's just going to be Jeff recommending the top shots of the week and making his predictions on which.
I think a better spinoff podcast would be you explaining things to me and me having no idea what you're talking about.
I think
explaining the world to me.
I actually think people would like
so
that.
Many topics.
Yes,
unlimited number of topics.
I've been explaining the world to you for 20 years, and I've never thought to capitalize on it. We are winding down, and we haven't really gotten. Well, I guess we did to start out with what's ahead, but specifically this week, the Spurs return to action in Dallas on Wednesday, and then on Friday return home for the first game with. I guess they were hometown heroes. A small crowd attendance last week, but this is like actual season ticket holders and up to 3,000 or so in the stands. In our closing minutes here, some thoughts about the week ahead. Jeff?
It'll be interesting to see the setup with fans and how it works, and we've talked a lot about how there's no home court advantage anymore. As more of these teams begin to filter in fans, will 3,000 make a difference? Will that give teams any sort of home court edge again? That's kind of the thing I'm interested to see in that, because after this week, this short week, they go on like a 5 games and 7-night road trip the following week. So I'll be interested to see if is that a road trip where you're playing road games, or are you still playing sort of these AAU style games where the home court advantage doesn't matter. So that's something.
With 3,000 fans in the stands, are you pro or anti piped in crowd noise?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would have to see it both ways and decide that way.
Does it matter with how much music they play over?
Probably it's going to need a booster, right?
Oh, I'm not talking about music. I'm talking about crowd noise. Like our friend Raul Dominguez was at the game. We've been covering a lot of these from home. Raul shows up. He likes the in-arena experience. And he was pointing out during the one last week that the Spurs continued to pump in crowd noise, the cheers through the speakers, even while the hometown heroes were in attendance. And I'm just curious, with 3,000 in there, I almost think, like, I don't have a strong feeling either way, but just since there's 3,000 in there, let them make as much noise as they can. And
it's 3,000, but it's not 3,000 all sitting together like in the lower bowl. Right. Like some of those 3,000s are going to be still sitting up in the rafters in the upper deck. Like, I don't know how much noise those people can make. I think it might be a trial and error sort of situation.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think this is all column material. You need to write a column ripping them for their piped-in crowd noise if they continue to do it.
I always care passionately about the things that I write about. I can't even get through that.
Piped-in crowd noise is a much better topic than Eyes of Texas.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Are you happy about, speaking about column topics that I have on the docket, Jeff, as a long-suffering Cowboys fan, are you happy about Dak Prescott being uber rich now?
I mean, sure. Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to lead the Cowboys to a Super Bowl?
Probably not, sir. Okay. I mean, just based on their entire history since 1995, 96, probably not.
Well, there's been your NFL analysis for the week. We got into this has been a really good podcast, I have to say. We got into analysis of TikToks and Top Shot and Bitcoin and GameStop, Jakob Poeltl, how his snub from the All-Star game probably made the game much more competitive than it would have been because he would have dominated for whatever side he got into. We got into crowd noises, and we got into the Cowboys. So I got to say, you people out there should just be really excited and thankful for sharing another 30 minutes with us this week. And
I think we need Ringo. I think Ringo keeps us on beat.
That's true. Ringo will be back next week. That's something good to think about. All the stuff that we talked about this week about cyber currency, be thankful for that. Be thankful that fans will be in the stands this Friday. Be thankful that you're going to be able to see 40 Spurs games in the next 68 days. And aside from that, take care of each other and keep it real.